I haven't gone yet. So I guess the big news last week was that I managed to, with the help of Daniar, to fix the normal equivocation that was
Oh, that's
happening
awesome! I
on
didn't see that go by.
Casper.
When did that happen?
It happened on Friday. I guess after, or yeah, after our meeting on Thursday. Yep. So
What was the issue? Can you describe the issue?
basically, we had an issue with how we were using our block API lock, and specifically the block API lock. We use it in different ways, but for creating a block, we use this method called try acquire. And what try acquire does is it tries to acquire the lock. If it can, it returns true. And if it can't, it returns false. And it doesn't wait. It just immediately returns false if it can't acquire the lock. And that was good for our purpose, because what we wanted to do was, if we couldn't acquire the lock, we wanted to make it go to the false case, immediately print out a message saying there's another deploy in progress. And that was good because, well, yeah, then we would often get that message. But the issue was that no matter what happened, whether it went in the true or false case, we were using sync bracket, so we just released the lock. Yeah, like in either case. And so at first it seemed fine because, well, if we grabbed the lock, then we would release it. And if we didn't grab the lock, we would release nothing. So it seemed okay. But what sort of triggered the intuition was that we would always see this message that there's no new deploys right before the ignorable equivocation happened. And so it seemed like releasing the lock and the ignorable equivocation had something to do with each other. And turns out when you release the lock in the case that you didn't grab the lock, because we were using a semaphore, what it does is it releases the lock that was obtained successfully in another thread. And that makes it such that it's now allowed to grab the lock even though the other thread might be in the middle of processing the body logic. And so, yeah, that was the bug.
I totally understand. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's subtle.
Yep. So, yeah, the fix was simple. Just only release the lock when you actually have it. And yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess. So I guess besides that, we're still trying to figure out the Genesis block retrieval failure. That's on the list. I'm not too concerned about that. And worked with Joe to finish up the cost accounting changes, which involved just fixing up tests, and then Arthur took over to finish that up. And we filtered duplicate deploys in the current chain, based on the deployer timestamp value. And what this basically means is previously we were only we were just we weren't actually checking anything. So like you or we would check for the you might get an invalid repeat deploy if you submitted a block with the same deploy timestamp but a different content. But we did not filter that when creating a block, so this made it possible for the block you created without any malicious intent to cause that invalid repeat deploy. And so that will fix this.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's nope.
Wow, that's really good work.
Yep, that's it for my updates.
That's really very, very impressive. Well, I haven't done much more work on the liveness stuff. I've been answering some questions from Christian Williams, who was asking at the research level, how does this fit into the circuit model? And um, I'm almost at this point. I almost feel like I should just turn it around since I've given the models. People should be able to start answering that question themselves. But but essentially, I'll leave a hint here. Um, um, the process calculate design level thinking for process calculate, where I use the circuit models to show how many different calculi arise from that basic block diagram circuit for the pi calculus. Um, the the thing is that all of that has to do with the syntax. There's nothing whatsoever to do with the dynamics. And then for the design level thinking, what I showed was that for design level thinking for execution, what I showed was the context model is the generalization, a first level generalization for the execution for the com rule. Basically, if you think about it, the calculus has three independent pieces. There's whatever generates the syntax, the free structure that generates the syntax. There's some relations or equations like structural equivalence, um, and then there's the rewrite rules. And in the you can just analyze the block circuit diagram stuff. Only messes with the thing that freely generates the syntax. In the case of the context, it only messes with the rewrite rules, right? So they're isolated and independent. And then the most recent thing that I did in terms of programmable liveness, it integrates the two. So it's a calculus which reifies the context, puts the context into syntax, and then that then changes the rewrite rules. So that's the answer to that question, but I haven't told Christian yet. Christian Williams. So maybe I'll see if he can figure it out, having left a hint here in Casper. All right, that's my update.
People in the Consensus Collab are struggling to try to come up with a concrete example that they could, work through. You were working on something like
a concrete example of what, Jim?
Of your correcting code.
Concrete examples of error correcting codes?
Yeah.
Oh, there are tons and tons of them. I gave an example in the slides I gave on the thing, right? But this is like error correcting codes is like, I don't know, 60 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just Google error correcting codes. But I give a simple example, and I also, there's a link to the paper where the group about 10 years ago found the link between error correcting codes and distributed consensus. So those there are examples in there, and there's lots and lots of examples online.
I guess.
And I gave a simple example, right? Every bit is turned into 3 bits, right? And so you have
where the problem I think people are having is extending that to blocks. What does that mean in the execution of our chain and proposing blocks?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then I recommend reading the paper. That's the simplest way to go at it. There's you want to look at it more abstractly. You just want some kind of Hamming distance on changes you're allowed to changes that you make that make a difference. Not changes that you're allowed to make, but if you have any sort of symmetries on the structure, then you have to mod out by those symmetries. But if you're sending a structure, you want to send variations of the structure to address the possibility of loss and the possibility of some kind of modification. So a modification which makes no difference will not provide any sort of error correcting code. A modification which makes a difference, for example, reordering the packet or anything like that, will make a difference. And so that's the direction in which you can use to generate the corresponding error correcting codes. Hope that helps.
Yeah, a bit. It's still a little ways from selecting a branch of the DAG, but
oh no, the selection of the branch of the DAG. The way to think about it is, and this is what the paper gives 2 things. One, you have to have a predicate, which says basically what your relationship is to the Hamming distance ball, and the other is you have to have a function which, given some variant, will return the center of the Hamming distance ball. So that's the trick. And once you have those, that's the predicate helps you select, and then the function is what gives you the thing that you should be selecting.
Thanks.
Sure.
The paper.
All right, gentle people. I'm supposed to be taking vacation today, so I'm gonna jump off. I enjoyed the conversation, and Kent, I'm gonna stop in on the stand up for a little bit, but I really should be taking some time off.
Sounds good. Please do.
All right.
Thank you,
So,
Craig. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Christian. Ciao.